what needs to happen is for the plan, we're going to repeat the exact same process, but instead of inserting elevation figures, we are going to insert plan figures in plan. So if you remember the same process, what do we do first? Well, we need to select the plan. We need to put it on a layer, so we're going to call it plan, right? When it is, so you need to select everything here and go and select the plan layer and say send to current layer. Now what you'll notice is that you can get a little bit more organized with your plans, with your layer in here. Now that you have pretty much have everything on either the plan or elevation layer, most of these layers coming from AutoCAD are no longer in use. So you could actually delete them. And of course you don't want to delete your text layer, but you would delete all the other layers from AutoCAD. So you would just end up with the layers that you are gonna use. All right, now, okay, so now that we have the plan layer, what we're going to do is select the plan layer, and we're going to use the live paint group again and turn this into a live paint group. Click once and it is now a live paint group. So now I'm able to use the paint bucket to fill in the walls here. So in this case, I might want to use a color. This time let's use a much darker tone color. So I will go back to I could start with a earth tone and maybe use a very deep brown. Then I can go to my my color panel and tweak the brown to get the exact flavor that I want to get. After I get the right tone of brown, I think that's what I want there. Maybe I want to get it a bit more red there. Then I need to just drag it into my swatches so that it's now saved. Then all I need to do now is to fill in these walls here with this color. Okay, so what I'm doing is fill in these walls here. There we go. Oops. Now the key thing is you want to follow the same principle as the elevation. You want to select colors that also go well together. So like these glass blocks here, we perhaps want to choose like a blue, and I'll go around like that. Any color that you accidentally fill, like this would be like a nice green, so I would want to maybe go to my nature and choose foliage and pick one of these green colors. Let me save that in my swatches panel, and notice that I can't fill this area green because it doesn't close off here, right? But that's okay. Now for your floor, you probably want to use a very light kind of color, so maybe I would go back to my gradients and maybe go to a earth tone, and I could pick one of these gradient color. That's actually a bit too bright. Now in most cases you might want to tweak your floor color. So what I suggest is for your gradient, a gradient is not a single color, it is two colors. If you choose to use a single color, like let's say that color, then you would tweak it using using the same color panel, and I would try to make it a little lighter, very light, and let's save that in our swatches as well. There we go. So then I would try to fill in these areas, and maybe I would give the rooms a slightly different tone. So I might want to go to my color guide. Now I might be going a little faster now because most of this process is very similar, you know, where we're basically just applying colors. Right, let's make this a lighter color. There we go. That looks more, that looks a bit better. And let's make that a color. And let's put another color like that out here for the balcony. All right, so you know, you can choose any color you wish, but this would be my choice for colors. Now, as it relates to the fixtures, now with the fixtures, for things like the countertops, you might want to use a nice brown kind of color. There we go. Make it a little bit darker so it's more pronounced, like that. And maybe for the closets as well. There we go. And for the actual fixtures, what you would do is use the same method you use for the vehicles, for the entourage, where you would drag in that entourage here. Wait, before I do it, let me create a layer. So we're going to create a new layer and call that maybe fixtures. Then I want to browse to my downloaded folder and drag in that fixture layer. Right now it's pretty huge. There it is. So I want to make it a bit small so I can use my transform and just resize that really quickly using the mouse wheel. All right, can spin this around. And I can actually replace with an actual object there. Now if you look in the folder, you should see some items you could use. This is a sink. Let's make it smaller again. We can just type in a value, maybe like 20. There we go. And we're gonna rotate that and make it smaller. And perhaps put it here. Use the mouse to get a more precise alignment. There we go. And pretty much you would use this throughout. Now, there is something I want to highlight, because now you're going to have to lay out large spaces like this. And this is where your design intuition comes in. So if you don't have a furniture layout existing, then what you can do is use a reference image of a living room. Google a picture of a living room and then try and match that layout. So let's see, if I look for living room plan, there we go, and we could perhaps pick something that is a bit similar to what we are producing, and we can use that as a kind of guide. Actually, let's see, let's try and find one that would kind of look like what we have. So this is one approach. Now, if you don't need to be using a guide, you could just look through the categories of furniture and just create your own kind of designs. So for example, I'm going to drag in 3 different bits of furniture here. I'm going to resize them again. There we go. And an interesting thing to note, in this case, notice that this furniture looks a bit like it's floating, and also it's a bit out of scale. So you want to now make sure that your furniture is to scale. So let's say that we wanted to make the living area here, that, and maybe like that. Actually, we're going to use back, let's make a copy of this. Use it there. Let's make this a little bigger. The scale is slightly off. And let's rotate this one like that. Now, what you might notice is that in this case, this furniture looks almost like it is actually floating, and you might notice that some of the assets you use have this kind of feel. So what you would need to do in this case is to add a drop shadow. Now, to add a drop shadow, you're going to go to your, we don't need this right now. Right, to add a drop shadow, you're going to access your appearance panel. So this is a whole new panel that we're getting introduced to, and you basically use this panel to add effects. And effects you can see here with the symbol, and every time you add an effect, it adds to the listings in this list here. So right now we don't have any effects in that listing. So to add an effect, what we need to do is click the effect icon. Then we need to go to stylize and then drop shadow. Now once you do that, you're going to notice that you get a kind of weird drop shadow. So you need to adjust the blur. There we go. And adjust the distance. There we go. Choose OK. And then we have a drop shadow there. So notice now the furniture looks a bit more grounded in the scene. Now you might notice that these effects, that the shadow effects that you're adding looks a bit pixelated, and the reason for that is that the shadow settings is actually set to a low resolution. Now to change that option, just some of your illustrators might have this issue, some may not. To change this option, you want to go to Effect and go to Document Raster Effect Settings, and then you want to change the screen PPI to 300. And once you do that, notice that the shadows get a bit more high resolution. All of these effects get a bit more high resolution. All right, now I'm only going to show you some examples here, and I'm going to leave you to actually create your own furniture layout. But I want to highlight something. When you click on this furniture here, notice that in your appearance tab, it shows you that it has a drop shadow. However, when you click on the next one, which is here, notice that it doesn't have a drop shadow. So this appearance panel keeps track of all your effects that you add to your objects. So in this case, I might want to select multiple objects and then go to effects and stylize, and then add a drop shadow, and it will add to the same thing. Now let's make this a little bit more transparent. There we go. It's still a bit heavy there, so I might want to tweak those shadow settings a little bit. So notice that I can actually select back the same objects, go to drop shadow here, and go back and tweak this setting here. So let's make it 0.5, and let's make it 20% transparent, maybe 30% transparent, and let's make the offset more like that, and choose OK. So you can find the setting that is right for you. Now additionally, remember that there are also like textures that you can place for rugs. So I've just dragged one in a while ago from the same folder. Let's make it a bit small again. There we go. And of course, you know, you'd want to put this behind that layer. So let's create a new layer and call it rug. It's a good idea to always keep your layers organized. And I'm going to go to send to current layer. Now, as I said, okay, we need to put the furniture layer. Oh, the furniture was actually not on the furniture layer, so let's do that. Let's get the furniture on the fixture layer, actually. There we go. One of them is left. There we go. So now things are starting to look a bit nicer. And you can see that shadow really adds some depth to the drawing there. Now there are many other objects that you can add. For example, there is also plants that you could add. You know, and this, you can really make the spaces come to life. There are beds, there are tables, there are center tables. This is just one example, but you can use this example to populate the space. And the most important thing to do is to watch your scale, so that, you know, if it's too big, you need to just resize everything so that it's the correct scale. This is perhaps the most challenging thing that you might have to do, to watch your scale. Now, the idea is to now go in and populate all these rooms with plants and furniture to make it very populated, and to make it a very nice presentation floor plan. So when you are complete with your presentation, elevation, and floor plan, you will save this as a PDF file and upload. Take note that only what is on the artboard will be produced in the PDF, so you need to ensure that your drawings are on the artboard. Also remember, your text layer must be on so that your rooms can be labeled. You can move these labels around to more appropriate places, and you can also edit them. There we go. There we go. Then ensure that the drawing labels are there, and give your drawing a title using the text tool when you're done. Here we go. So we want to give your drawing a title, and we want to call it DDM Exercise 4. And let's put that in the middle using the text tool. Let's make it a little bit bigger. So let's try font size 21. There we go. And then we want to name this presentation elevation. And then we want to copy this label here. Control C, Control V. And then we want to call this presentation plan. Get this centered. There we go. Okay, so go ahead and now complete these drawings by adding more detail using the entourage and assets in your exercise folder.